right. Good morning, everyone. I am Michelle Fales and at Varsity Mortgage here on 6th Street. And our first speaker today is Chelsea Peitz. She is an internationally recognized speaker and best-selling author whose superpower is breaking down complex concepts into actionable, easy to execute social media strategies. I want to have a superpower, so that's pretty cool. So welcome, Chelsea.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here. And yes, we are going to be uncomplicating your social media today. And I'm super thrilled to be talking about one of my favorite topics, which happens to be content and the creation of that content, again, made easy. The very first thing that I want to make sure is that we're all connected so that you can reach out to me and ask questions at any time. There's going to be a lot of content we're going to cover today, and you probably will have some follow-up questions. The best place to connect with me is on Instagram. That's one of my favorite platforms. You can find me by my name. You can also find me on all the other platforms too by my name as well. My goal today is to get you unstuck from your social media and content overwhelm. As mentioned, I believe my superpower is helping to make really complex social media concepts easy and digestible and step by step with a lot of examples. I do have a disclaimer, however, when talking about social media. I do have to tell you that there is no magic hashtag formula. If there was, I would be selling it and all of our content would be taking off on Instagram if it were that easy. And I also want to remind you that there isn't a one size fits all when it comes to your social media strategy. And I personally think that's an amazing thing because all of us are different. All of us are unique. We all have our own favorites and things that we prefer, and we all have our own unique. So it's important to know that just because one person does it a specific way doesn't mean you have to do it that way to be successful. One of the most challenging parts of social media as someone who teaches it, I can only imagine for someone who's using it, is the fact that social media doesn't have a linear ROI, a 1 + 1 = 2 formula, meaning I can't tell you exactly what to post and how many times to post it and how that's going to correlate or when that's going to give you a transaction. But the good news about that is because it's not metrics that we're dealing with, it's people. And so when we understand that we're dealing with human beings on the other side of the screen, it makes our perspective a little bit different, I think, in a positive way for how we approach our social media. Social media relationships are real life. They take time. And just like anything in life, if you want to see results from it, you're going to have to put in the work long term. So a little story about me and my history of 22 years in the real estate space. Yes, I was a licensed agent for 18 years. I always get a little chuckle when I tell people I got my license in 2001 BF. The BF stands for before Facebook. So I did business the old-fashioned way for many years before social media even existed. So while I'm not a digital native, I didn't grow up with the Internet of Things, I am one of the very few people that I know of on this planet that has actually studied and written a book about how camera-first communication, Snapchat, Instagram stories, TikTok, video in general through social media has changed the way that we communicate with other people, the way that we develop relationships and communities, and actually has changed the way our brains consume content and also consume your brand. So what happened is I started studying for about a year brains, biology, and behavior. My background is in clinical psychology. That's what I got my degree in. I am a bit of a neuroscience nerd. I love learning about our brain. And when it comes to our brains and social media and marketing, It is a passion of mine. And so I studied brains, biology, and behavior. And what I found is that there really truly is a science to what I call the screen-to-screen phenomenon. Connecting with people eye to eye through our phones and through our devices. The fact that technology can actually be used to make us more human, especially in times where we're not traveling and we're going to virtual conferences. And perhaps the only way that you are seeing people and customers could be through technology. So as I studied that, I came up with what I call the camera first formula. And the summary of that is three things. One, the neuroscience of visuals. And we're going to talk quite a bit about your face. That's the visual and the science behind it. And honestly, why our brains love seeing other people's faces on screens, but truly hate seeing our own. That is a scientific neurological fact. We're also going to talk about the sociology of these social media platforms where we connect and direct message. And a lot of this is happening in real time, which is human time. And then lastly, the product psychology. Love it or hate it, these products are designed to get us hooked. How can we use that for good and not evil? And when all of that comes together, it designs our behavior. It's a fancy way of saying it's going to change what you're looking at. It's going to change your consumption patterns. And when behavior changes, expectations follow. And that means that we are going to start expecting to see your brand showing up in a specific way on the socials. And we're going to talk more about that. But first, let's talk about some brain science. So in our brain, we actually have two really large dedicated portions of our brains that essentially are cameras. They work just like a regular camera on your phone. And the only thing that they take pictures of are faces. That's right. These two areas of your brain called the fusiform gyrus actually only take pictures of people's faces. And if we were to damage these parts of our brain, we'd actually suffer from something called facial blindness, which means I would be able to look at someone and recognize that I am looking at a human face, but I wouldn't know who it belonged to. So seeing faces is so important that we have not only one, two areas of our brain dedicated. In fact, it's so innate that babies as young as 9 minutes old can start to differentiate their mother's face from someone else's. It's critical that we see faces to understand one another, to relate to each other, to develop trust, the relatability, the like, no trust, as you are used to hearing. And what happens is that our brain starts to fire after we start seeing things over and over again in a very specific pattern. And that's called mirror neurons. So it's kind of like when you see someone yawning and you're like compelled to yawn too. That's what a mirror neuron is. Essentially, we don't even know consciously that it's happening, but we start to mirror or reflect what we're seeing, whether the person's on a screen or whether they're in front of us. We also start to like that person and trust that person, and we don't even realize it's happening because we're seeing them more often. So what happens when you show up and show your face on social media is that you literally and figuratively are top of mind. And that is our goal, to be the top of mind when somebody is ready to buy or sell a property. Now, I talked a little bit about the idea of real time. Sending a direct message, a live video, maybe an Instagram story, all of that is in real-ish time. I say real-ish because some of that isn't actually live. But if you're watching my stories, you're seeing something that maybe I posted a few minutes ago, and you can actually communicate with me about that story. And real time truly is human time, right? This is what we're doing right now. It's in real time. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the idea of getting products and how we're hooked on them. This gentleman right here, his name is Nir Eyal. He wrote a book called Hooked. It is fascinating. In fact, I reached out to him and asked him his permission to use his model in one of my books that I wrote about social media. And essentially what he created was what you're looking at right here. This model of pretty much how any product on the planet gets us hooked. So let's talk about it when it comes to social media. The trigger, that's what gets our attention. In this case, it's a social media notification. Even if you have your notifications turned off, like I do, when I go into my socials, I always look at the notifications when I'm in there, mainly because I'm going to assume it's not about work, it's something positive, and it's probably talking about me. So that's why we have this trigger. We see that little notification. We want to open it. We want to know what someone has said. So we take the action. We open it. And then we get the reward. We scratch the itch. We see what's there, and hopefully it's positive. And now we have an investment because we're going to keep coming back to it. So that is how it works. That's the hook model. You could also think of this in terms of when I create a community and I'm DMing people regularly, that's where I'm going first. I'm not even going to my text messages. I'm going straight to the direct message because I may not have that person's phone number. And so now I'm starting to rely on this social platform more and more as my communication to my community. So in summary, the science of social, well, faces accelerate. And if you're not showing your face, you are doing a disservice to your brand and to your customer. The sociology of these shared experiences and direct messages that are creating a community. And of course, the psychology of the hook model, investment, creating commitment. So this was the first book that I wrote called Talking in Pictures. I had no idea, as none of us did, that there was a global pandemic coming and that we were all going to be talking in pictures exclusively for about 18 months. And so the reason I picked that title, Talking in Pictures, is because the CEO of Snapchat had this really incredible quote that said something along the lines, I'm paraphrasing, you know, parents look at their young kids and they wonder why they're taking thousands of pictures of random things every day. But what they don't realize is they're not preserving memories, they're talking. And that's how we're communicating now through these social devices. Truly, the camera has become the new social feed, which is a fundamental behavioral shift. We use online cues to make offline judgments. I'll say that again. We use online cues to make offline judgments, even when it comes to one of the biggest decisions of our financial life, buying and selling a home. And here's why. Robert Cialdini, who is a professor here where I live in Arizona, had an incredible book. Again, I'm just going to give you the shortcut to the mental shortcut section. But essentially, our brains, they're bombarded with decisions all day. So we start to rely on mental shortcuts that we've made based on previous behaviors. Here's an easy one. I'm going to Washington this week, and I've never been to this place that I'm going. So I went to Expedia, like many people do, and I looked at hotels. And when I looked at hotels, I saw a couple of different options. They all looked pretty similar to me in the pictures, except one of them was about $150 more a night. So I thought to myself, it's $150 more. I wonder if maybe it's that much better. Now, that hotel could be exactly the same as all of the other ones I looked at, but my mental shortcut was, based on previous experiences, maybe it's better if it's more expensive. We all know that's not necessarily true, but that's a shortcut. The same thing applies when people are experiencing your brand. Because I've never met you before in person doesn't mean that I can't feel like I already know you because I've already consumed you through social media. We're looking at trust signals, which are basically data points all around us. We're looking at likes, comments. How many friends do we have in common? Think about the last time that you accepted a friend request. Did you look at how many friends you had in common? Did you accept somebody that you've never known before on Facebook and no friends in common? What happens when people Google your name? How many followers do you have? Which is really an unfortunate data point because I know that that can be hacked. People can buy their followers, and that doesn't necessarily always equate to them being an expert at what they do or even influential. How many star ratings do you have? And how many videos do you have? Think about this. What if you got a referral for a plumber today? Something happened, you had a pipe burst, you needed a new garbage disposal, whatever it was. Somebody says, I have this person, another person says, I've got this person, great. What you're gonna do is search them somewhere. You might search them on Google, you might search them on Instagram, wherever you're looking. And we're looking for data points really, really quickly. And we're looking for that person who has one more data point than the other. So let's imagine plumber number one has a YouTube channel with 30 videos all about plumbing, albeit maybe that's boring content to some, but that's giving me a data point, and I'm able to see that person and I immediately think, oh, wow, this person's made 30 videos. They probably know what they're talking about. Versus the other person that I can't find anything, or maybe it's just a basic website, there's no Instagram, nothing, no videos. Who would I call first? Probably the person that gave me more data points. This study is so interesting to me as somebody who travels for work a lot. When Uber and Lyft came out, which is what we're looking at, rideshare drivers, that's what they're referring to, I thought it was pretty dangerous. I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna get into a car with a stranger. I don't really like that idea. But what's interesting is, as somebody who travels, I take these services all the time, multiple times a day. And so they did a study about trust and how we trust people, specifically people we know and people we are that we don't know, strangers. And at the top of the list, as you can see here, Uber and Lyft drivers, more than your colleagues, more than your neighbors. Now, why do we trust perfect strangers more than people we know? Here's why. When you open up your app to order an Uber, you see the person's profile picture, you see a name, and you see a number associated, a rating, if you will. And so we immediately trigger the shortcut of, oh, I have the data points and I can trust this person. This is my son, Mason, when he was probably about, I want to say maybe 4 years old. And we had this morning ritual where we let him watch a little YouTube Kids cartoon as he was, having his Cheerio snack for the day. And he would always watch the same thing, as a lot of kids do. They find their favorite and then, drive you crazy with the song in the background that I couldn't stand listening to anymore. And one day he said, Mom, I don't want to watch this anymore. I said, why, babe? You love this show. You've watched all of them. We know all the characters. And he said to me, Mom, it only has 4 of the stars. This one has 5, and I want to watch that one. And that was such a wake-up call to me, because obviously I have never had a conversation with my 4-year-old about star ratings, but seeing that there was one more star that could have been filled in was enough to make him change his mind from something he enjoyed already and watch something different. So if that doesn't speak to where we're at in the world, wow, it's pervasive. Industry is irrelevant, but behavior is not. This is about human behavior and how these items that we're using every single day are impacting the way that we look at people's brands and the way that we make decisions. And that means it's not okay to be anonymous in 2022. So with that, now that we have the foundation, let's talk about creating content that is going to position your brand in a way that's visible, that will attract ready to work with you leads, and is going to also connect those dots of the human need to see and trust you through social media. So the first step we're going to talk about is my favorite strategy, and it is called becoming the superfan. When we typically think of the word superfan, we are thinking in terms of, oh, I need to create content so that people become my superfan. Yes, that would be ideal. We do want people to be super fans of your content, but that's not what I'm talking about in this sense. What I'm talking about is you becoming a super fan of other people's content strategically and with intention, because there's some really huge benefits to you being a super fan first. Now, before I dive into the strategy, we have to understand how I personally look at your brand, my brand. It's not just our face, it's not just our name, it's not our logo, all of that. That's part of it. But there is another big part of our brand that we don't control, and mainly that's the algorithm. We don't control that. It could change at any time. But I'm going to tell you what the algorithm is looking for and how it works so that you can work smarter and not harder. And when you understand what the algorithm's looking for and you give it that data point, then what happens is the perception of the person who's consuming your content, the person who's scrolling through the feeds, you have a little bit more influence on the perception that, wow, every time I open up my Instagram feed, there you are. Every time I go to Facebook, I'm seeing you. I feel like I'm seeing you all over. Yes, we want that, but we don't want to spend all day on social media and creating content. That is a recipe for burnout. And then lastly, it's also about our content, which is what we're talking about today. But we only control a portion of our content. We can control the format, how often we post it. We can control the hashtags we use, but we don't control ultimately if people enjoy it, if they find it entertaining, if it's relatable. Sometimes we may love it and it may not, quote, perform as well as you had hoped. So we have some aspects of control, and kind of all of those things coming together impact our brand. So let's debunk the myths about algorithms right now. I'm going to put both Facebook and Instagram's algorithm information up right here. This is directly from Facebook and Instagram. And basically what they're both looking for is meaningful interactions. Meaningful interactions. What does that really mean? Essentially, it's a computer system. And the computer system is trying to keep you in the platform as long as possible and keep you coming back to the platform. They want you to spend time there because the more time you spend, the more ads they can serve, the more money that they make, and the more dependent, remember the hook model, the more invested you become. So how does a computer system know what you're interested or who you're interested in seeing? It's looking at data points like your comments, your likes, your direct messages. It's looking to determine how can we predict if someone has a relationship. Well, it doesn't know if you're friends with somebody or if that person you're commenting on was a past client. It only knows that you're leaving comments and DMs or vice versa. So what happens is it becomes extremely critical for you to be a heavy engager, i.e. a super fan of your past clients, current clients, and anyone who might refer you business. It's important for you to proactively engage first, and here's why. When you are a super fan of your client's content or your potential client's content, that is where the attention is. I time block my emails because I know it's all business related. I check my social media notifications multiple times a day, and I always look at the notifications because, again, we assume it's about me, it's positive, and it's probably a friendly conversation. So we have a different experience and actually still pay attention to social media notifications. The best part for you is that you get to build brand without ever posting. We're gonna get there, you still have to post, but when you're feeling burnt out or overwhelmed or you just don't know where to start here. You can build brand without content because your comments are very valuable content. You have those notifications going out to that person that you're direct messaging and commenting. That is free repeat branding. Every time I open it up and I see a notification, I see your profile picture, I see your name, and of course, I see the message or the comment. I personally remember the people who are commenting. I don't actually look at the people who've liked something because I have to click on it. It opens up a list. It's not convenient for me. So while I appreciate it when people like, I'm really only paying attention to the people that comment. It's also going to tell the algorithm, hey, I want to see more of this person. So reorganize my feed so that their posts go up higher in my feed. Now, here's the best part. If you're engaging with someone, the likelihood of them engaging back is extremely high. It's in the 90-something percentile because we reply back. We get a notification, we reply back. Maybe it's a like, maybe it's, hey, thanks, whatever it is. And now there's data points on both sides. So not only will you see that person's content more often, when you make a post, that post is now has a better chance of getting served higher up in their feed. And isn't that what we want? So by being a heavy engager, you can train the algorithm to make sure that your content is going to float up higher in their feed. There's also this concept that I refer to as a good community member score. This is not from Facebook or Instagram, it's my verbiage, but I do believe that because of data points, it's determining, are you a good community member? Are you using this tool like we intended? Are you talking to people? Now, why does it care if you're talking to people? Not because it wants it to be this lovely community where you're talking to people. I love that idea, but let's be honest. If I send you a message, you're going to come back to the platform. And when you come back to the platform, you're probably going to spend some time there. So the system's like, thank you, Chelsea, for bringing people back to the platform. We love that. You're a good community member, so we'll make sure that we give you a little bit of extra love because you are using the platform like we intended. Direct messages, crucial, critical, especially if you are an Instagram user. Direct messages is a huge metric that is determining who is seeing your content and who should see your content as well. My favorite is that it eliminates all excuses, right? There's no video involved, there's no hashtags, it's just you talking to people likely about something that they're telling you exactly what to talk about. If somebody posts a happy birthday picture, what are you gonna talk about? You're gonna wish them a happy birthday. So you don't even have to think about it. You don't even have to get out of bed to do this. And you don't have to be connected with people to do it either. You don't need their phone number, you don't need their email, you don't need any of that. So it really does eliminate excuses. So walk away with this idea of less contenting, more commenting. Less contenting, more commenting. Step number 2, when we are ready to make that content, we need to get our house in order first. We need to optimize our profiles so that we're getting found more often by the right audience, because what's the point of making content if no one's finding it, right? So we need to make sure that your content and your profiles are in fact searchable. This is typically going to fall into categories outside of Facebook, because Facebook is usually just the people that you know. A Facebook page, this would apply to your Google My Business. This would apply to your Instagram profile. This could apply to your TikTok. It could apply to your YouTube and your website. Anything that is open and public and easy to discover, we want to be focused on optimizing it. So let's specifically talk about Instagram. Instagram is looking for a variety of words in specific places. So I'm going to put these all up here so you can take a picture if you would like to. It's looking at what kind of words do you have in your profile? What about your bio? What words are you using in the captions for your post? What kind of hashtags are you using? Yep, we're going to talk about hashtags coming up. Also, closed captions, or you might call them subtitles. Please take a note. As of today, you will never post another video without closed captions or subtitles. Critical for a variety of reasons. Number 1, inclusivity and accessibility for those who are unable to hear. Number 2, for different learning styles. I personally learn better when I read and hear it at the same time. For the 90% of us who choose to watch with no sound. If I'm watching with no sound and you're having a video that has nothing for me to read, I will not engage. I will not watch. I will go on to the next thing that I can consume without having the sound on. The last part of it is SEO, search engine optimization. Those words are data points to the computer system. Yes, it helps it understand what is your content all about and who should see it. Write alt text descriptions. This is specific to Instagram photos. In the posting area, and I think I have a picture coming up. In the posting area, when you're posting your pictures to Instagram, there's something that says advanced settings. Click on advanced settings. It will take you to a new screen and you can go to write alt text. It's a little similar to closed captioning on videos in the sense that you're going to type out a very simple text description of what is in your photo. Even if it's a Canva graphic, describe what's in it, because that is being used by screen readers, and also those words are giving data points to the computer system. Tagged locations, critical for real estate, right? Because you're probably not doing real estate everywhere. You're doing real estate in one or two places. And we just talked about the super fanning, who you're engaging with. That's what Instagram is looking for. So now let's look at a profile example and how this applies. The two blue arrows, extremely important for Instagram searchability and discoverability. You want to make sure you've got three things happening in these two areas. You don't have to make sure that all of them are in each one. And by the way, if you go to my Instagram profile today, there is a link there. If you click on it, I have a full 15-minute deep dive on optimizing your profile that you can check out. We don't have time for that today, but it goes deeper into optimizing this to get found, get followed, and get leads. So what I want you to think about is, do you have your first and last name? Or if you're a brokerage or a team, do you have that brand name? Do you have a real estate related term like real estate, or realtor if you are a realtor, and make sure that you have the trademark appropriate symbol? And then lastly, what about a location? Now, anytime someone goes into Instagram and searches your name, your city, or any kind of real estate related word, your profile will show up in the search results, which is awesome. Let's talk a little bit about hashtags. This goes for all the platforms, not just Instagram. Let's keep it super simple. First, think about, what do you do? But that's often where we stop. We just use real estate related hashtags, which is important, but that's typically going to attract people who are in our industry, and it's going to tell the system that your content is about real estate, which is great, but it's not necessarily going to attract customers. So for that, we need to also think about, where do you do what you do? Cities, local information, names of neighborhoods. That's very important, because if I'm a consumer coming to Instagram, I am not typing in hashtag realtors of Instagram, but I am typing in my city name and maybe things that are related to activities or parenting, etc. Also think about what is inside your photo or video. Your hashtag should be relevant to your topic as well, to help the computer system understand how to sort and serve your content. Lastly, this is probably the most important, but also probably the most challenging, I would say. Who should see it? Who is your ideal customer? For me, it's other moms that own businesses, because that's what I do. And I want to help other moms that are in real estate or mortgage to understand how to use social media. So what would those interests be? Maybe parenting hashtags, or something like hashtag realtor mom, or hashtag mompreneur. Who should see it? If you're selling golf communities, guess what? Their interests are probably golf. So think about this when you are looking at keywords on any platform. Now, I did mention closed captioning. This is a great app. I think it might be $1. It used to be free, but I think they've put a minor charge on it. Any app that you can add, just go to your app store and type in closed captioning and you'll find a bunch of them. But this is one that I've used and I really like it. Captions speak to the camera. So if you are going to make a video on your phone and you want to post it to different places, this might be a great option for you. Luckily, Instagram and TikTok already have captions built in, which is awesome. I would assume every platform will finally come around, because it seems very bizarre to me that not every platform makes this an automatic generated process. But yes, you can create your videos on Instagram through the Instagram stories or Instagram Reels platform. And then you can go into the stickers menu and select caption. And then you can see it right here. It's this first sticker, caption. It will auto transcribe everything that you're saying verbally in the video. And you can move it around on your screen and change the fonts if you like that as well. Okay, before we get into the next step, we also have to talk about context, or how something has meaning or is consumed. Is also about understanding how we consume content on the socials. It's different. The way that I read when I'm reading a book is very different than the way my brain reads on social media. This has a lot of great information on it, but I guarantee you that none of you can read it, and it's probably on your desktop or your laptop right now, which is a pretty decent sized screen. Imagine if this was on your phone. So what happens is our brain is like, nope, that's going to be too many calories for me to burn. Remember mental shortcuts? You want to save us as many calories as possible. And so this picture right here is a description of how our brain does that. So imagine walking into a big conference room. You might recognize, like, where is the front of the room? You might see where the exit doors are. You might even find the restrooms. But generally speaking, none of us walk into a room like this and start counting every single chair in the room. It's too many calories. Our brain would melt down halfway through the day if we did all of those decisions. So you need to be cognizant of, is it the right content that might be in the wrong format? Could I make a series of those 10 different tips instead of putting a text-heavy PDF on there that no one's going to read, because our brain doesn't read the same way on the socials? So it could very well be the right content in maybe the wrong format. So think about that when you're going through as well. Step number 3 is creating shareable and savable content. This is content that other people are going to feel compelled to maybe share or to also save. So that's not going to be every single piece of content that you make. And I want you to think in terms, if you're taking notes, just make a little note that says, once a month. I don't want you to get burnt out. I want you to be empowered. So think about, once a month, can I make one piece of content that will be in this area of shareable, savable? Let's talk about what that is right now. So before we even talk about some examples, we need to know, why are we engaging? Why are we engaging? Well, we engage with stuff because we relate to the story. It's human, it's emotional, or maybe it's a common problem that people have. A lot of content that I save is something that helped me learn something, a new tip, a hack, a tutorial. I share a lot of entertaining stuff. I love things that make me laugh, and I share a lot of that. What about something that might be a trending topic or a trending meme? That's something that people are talking about. How many people shared content about the Super Bowl, and also all the things that go along with Super Bowl this last weekend? Another thing is, can it help you see something in a new or different way? That's kind of what we're doing here. I'm helping you see your brand and content in a different way. And that's something that if somebody saw on social media, they might say, wow, I'm going to share that, or I'm going to save that. It also has to really be a reflection of their brand. I'm not going to share a picture of your family. I'm going to like it. I'm going to comment on it. But why would I share that? That's about you. I want to share things that represent me and my brand. So shareable, savable content is going to be less about you and more about how you are helping serve your audience. Clear and understandable summaries, especially if you're sharing market updates, stats, charts, etc. Yes, it's a pretty graphic I can look at it. You might think it's simple to understand, but the fact that you have made a video with you in it, you're humanizing it, you're making it unique, and you are breaking it down in simple, easy to understand terms and what it means to me, that is why we share and save. And not every post you're going to make is going to be shareable and savable, nor should it be. So just keep that in mind. Here's a couple of examples. This is a screen grab from maybe a couple of years ago on my feed. You can see that I've got pictures of me and I've got a picture of my kiddo in the middle there. That picture with my kid in it got a lot of engagement. As I expected, you know, people were like, oh my gosh, it looks cold, so cute, whatever it may be. But let's be honest, if someone shared it, I'd be like, that's kind of weird. Why are you sharing a picture of me or my kid or whatever it is? But what people did share was the quote that had nothing to do with me and everything to do with helping people, which is less contenting, more commenting. You just heard me say that a few slides ago. I had 155 shares and 133 saves. Now, in my caption, I also gave a lot of really helpful tips, but that's a good illustration of shareable content versus just engageable content. So hopefully that visually is helping you. My friend Jimmy, a great follow. All of his content is shareable and savable, all of it. In fact, if you look at this picture right now, in the bottom corner, it says swipe and steal. He's actually telling you to steal this exact template he's posting. So this is like the extreme shareable, savable account. Mine is in between, but this is definitely a great account, especially if you're in real estate, to follow, because lots of really helpful tips, lots of shareable, savable content there. All right, step number 4, one of my favorite tips is starting conversations. Starting conversations. I don't know if you noticed this. If you're writing notes, you probably did, but each one of these steps starts with an S. I just thought I'd point that out. The first tip that I can give you that is literally going to change your engagement and start more conversations is using the word you. We are naturally inclined to speak in our own first person, of course. And so when you're writing captions for your posts, or if you're talking in a video, it's very common for us to say, here's a story about me and what I'm doing. Switching that word to you is going to change the game for engagement. And I'll give you an example. I'm going to be flying on a plane today, and I could say something like, I am terrified of flying. And I'll probably get like engagement and people saying, oh, me too. But what if I turned it around and said, are you afraid of flying? What are your best tips? What would you tell someone who is not excited about getting on a plane? You, right? Versus I. It's still a story about me getting on a plane, but I'm switching that language to invite people into the conversation. We want our content to feel like someone is invited to our conversation and that they can jump in and say something at any time and add to that conversation. Here's a couple of examples. These are people that got paid much money to come up with hooks on ads and infomercials because they work. Have you ever felt like, do you struggle with, don't you hate it when blank happens? Now, as I'm reading this, you're probably thinking, well, those are kind of awkward. I wouldn't say that. They don't have to be. They don't have to be. You can make them into your own language. Don't you hate it when your garbage disposal breaks the day I'm closing? That literally just happened to me. So this is how you can take your I content, make it into you. Asking a question, huge tip. Ask questions. Ask questions. That is going to get you more engagement. Speaking of comments and questions, you can use those as future content. In the first section, the superfan section, I talked about your comments are content. Well, this has never been more true. You are looking at a picture of my good friend, Giselle Ugardi, who is an incredible speaker and TikTok expert. And what you're seeing here is her reel. Actually, it was a TikTok, and she also posted it to Reels. And what you can do now with both Reels and TikTok is you can reply to anyone's comment with a video and make an entirely new original video. So what happened here is this little like square at the top here where the red arrow is, someone left her a comment. Someone left her a really nice comment that said, yes, keep doing your thing. Sometimes negative feedback comes from people who would love to do what you're doing. It wasn't even a question. It was just a really nice comment. And it made her think, that's a good point. I'm going to make a second video all about that point. And so you can look at your comments and questions that you're getting in your DMs, in your text messages, in your emails, in the comment section of your own content, and you can make it into more content. Now, if you're using stories, you can use the engagement stickers, like the poll sticker, a quick this or that. Remember I talked about brain calories and burning brain calories? We want shortcuts. We don't want to have to think of a question to ask you. We want you to give us 2 choices, and then I can pick what I like, because then my brain's like, oh, no calories. So here's what's really cool about poll stickers in your stories. If you put up a poll, this or that, whatever it is, and people tap on it, because tapping is easier than typing. So if I can get people to tap on it, every tap is a data point, every tap. So now the computer system says, oh, wow, well, these 10 people tapped on that poll, so let's rearrange the stories feed and put my story, which had the poll that they engaged with, we're going to move that up closer to the front of the lineup so it's more likely to be seen. Great. Love that. Easy to do, right? All right, another tip for starting conversations, engagement, having a call to action. A call to action means you're going to tell people how to engage with you, or you're going to ask a question. Either way, you're encouraging people, you're triggering them to say, oh, yes, I want to engage. I want to click that link. I want to leave a comment. I'm going to share this. I'm going to save this. You have to tell people what to do, and very specifically how to do it or what's in it for them. For example, I could say, comment below. Or I could say, if you agree, drop me the purple heart emoji. And people will open up their phones and scroll through the keyboard of the emojis and go find that purple heart emoji, because you did not make me burn any calories. So it's very important that everything you do have a call to action or a question in it, especially if it's video. I used to forget that all the time. My mind would just go blank and I would make the video, and then I would forget to actually put a call to action in the video itself, because I was so focused on getting the content out onto the video. So a couple little tips for summarizing what we just went over. I do have a little teaser for you too. If you go to my Instagram profile and click on the link, there is a guide that goes with what we're talking about today. It's a 21-page guide, totally free. Go over there and you're gonna get even more than what I'm talking about today, and a couple of really good questions to help you get started with content. But this first bullet point talks about the 5 E's. That's going to be in that guide. So make sure you go get that. It's different categories of content. Essentially, you need to check to see, am I using you language versus I language? Is this something I would share or engage with? And we get really subjective about our content. Be honest, be honest. Go back and look at your content. Is this something that you would engage with on Instagram or on Facebook if you were not in real estate? Is it clear, concise, is it compelling? Are you talking to one specific person? All right, this is my favorite part, and this is what you've been waiting for, is story-focused content. This is the part where I'm going to teach you how to take your good content and make it great. And this is the part where we're going to make content that captivates, engages, puts your brand in a very human, relatable, likable, trustable, empathetic position, and create real relationships that generate referrals. I always have to remind myself and anyone else that your brand is not a house. Your brand is not a house. Your brand is you. Your brand is your face, it's your voice, it's your opinion, it's your advice, it's your perspective. And sometimes we go to a profile and we see none of you there. And that instantaneously is a trigger about your brand. Remember, we talked about data points and how we make decisions. So I would give you a homework of assignment of going to look at your last posts and seeing how often are you in it? How often are you showing up in it? Because your brand is not a house, your brand is you. And by the way, the only original content on the planet is your story, your experience, your perspective. And in a world of real estate where if you're in a specific area and there's multiple realtors that have access to the same MLS information, well, everybody has the same information. So how do you stand out when everyone might have the same information? The only difference is how you deliver it, you in the content, right? My favorite quote of all time, favorite quote, people come for the plot and they stay for the characters. You are the character that people want to stay for, but they're not going to stay for it if they never see that character, if there's no character development. So you have to think about that in terms of how to build that like, no trust. Now, I'm not going to go through all of these content fears, but I've taught a lot of classes and I've had a lot of content fears and still have content fears. So I am well versed in the limiting beliefs that we tell ourselves when it comes to creating content, especially with us in it. Let's talk about, I don't like being on camera. Yep, that's because we're human and we want to be loved and belong. That sociology of making a community. It also can make us feel like, ooh, if I put myself out there, I'm kind of vulnerable. Ooh, what if somebody says something, or what if I don't look good or I don't sound good? I'm sorry to tell you that there is no magic pill, button, or class that you're going to take that is going to instantaneously take that away. That is innate. We were born with it. It's one of the foundational things that we need to survive and thrive, is to feel love and belong. And sometimes that is going to cause you to feel a little bit nervous, a little bit anxious, a little bit hesitant about making a video or putting you in it. What I'm giving you is permission to post a video and not ever watch it back if you so choose. I didn't watch my own content for 5 years because I was one of these people. Now I watch myself back, and I really wish I would have watched myself more because I would have improved a lot quicker. But if that is where you're at, that's okay. But we do need to get you on camera, not because it's about being your reality show or all about you. It's about connecting with people eye to eye in a scalable situation. None of us can meet 20 people physically in a day unless they're coming to an open house and they're coming in. But if you had meetings where you're going to sit down and meet with 20 people to list their home in a day, not humanly possible. But by making one post or one video, hopefully one video, I can actually reach 20 people and it looks like I'm looking at them eye to eye. Maybe it's 200 people, maybe it's 20,000 people, and maybe it's at 3 a.m. when I'm sleeping and they're awake, so it's more convenient for that. I also want to address, I'm worried about it being me, me, me. And to that I say, yes, there's bragging, but simply being in your content and showing your face and being on camera, that's human. That's how we connect. That's the most human form of connection. Would you go to a listing appointment? The people sit down, at your desk, or maybe you're in their home at their dining room table, and then you jump behind a wall and hide your face while you're talking to them? No, we would not do that. Also, when we talk about the guide versus the hero content in just a moment, how will I know who my guide is if I don't know who I'm looking for? Your face is so critically powerful in stopping the scroll because our brain's like, I know that face. That's why companies like Nike pay people millions of dollars to borrow a face. They know that's how our brains connect. I'm going to do another one here. But I'm a private person. Okay, that's totally okay. I actually am a fairly private person myself, but I share personal human content with my face in it that pretty much everyone can relate to at some level. We all eat. Most of us have heard of Super Bowl. Maybe we didn't all watch it, but we heard about it. Maybe we did watch it. Some of us watched the halftime show. Some of us were just there for the food. That's human personal content. So there is a difference between personal and private. You determine the private, but you can be a shy, quiet, private person and still have a very successful, connective community on the socials. The last one I'm going to cover is I don't want my competitors to see what I'm doing. And to that I say, are you not watching your competitors? You should be, and they should be watching you. And it's 2022, and unless you have your content on a pay-gated website that I have to be a member of, if it's publicly on social media, I can find it. Even if you blocked me, I'll look over to my husband and say, hey, can you look up this person's content? And then they'll show it to me. And the idea of dimming your light and your shine and your ability to help other people because you're afraid that somebody might take the same idea and make it their own, fine. If they do, they still won't be you. And by the way, like I said, every piece of real estate content has been done. There is nothing original when it comes to a real estate tip. The only thing original about the real estate tips is how you deliver it and you being in it. We talked about this. This is our fear around making content. We need to be loved and feel like we belong. And putting ourselves out there is definitely going to get you into that discomfort zone, which is where, of course, we're going to grow. We did just talk about personal and private. Just want to remind you, you determine what is the boundary of private. But personal human content, you can be, quote, professional and human. And you do that by putting your face in your content. This is something that I have to constantly remind myself of. And if you're taking notes, write this down. Put it on a Post-it note, put it on your computer, put it on your desk. When you start to second guess yourself, when you start to hear that imposter syndrome creep in, when you start to say, this is boring, nobody cares about this. No, I don't want to do this. I'm not feeling like I look my best right now. Here's my question or my comment. If you make this video that answers a common question that you have expertise on and experience with, and that you know people are asking, if someone watches or consumes or reads that and says, oh, I was actually wondering that, that was helpful, regardless if they comment, maybe they just watch it and you have no idea. Did that video help someone? Yes, it did. So it really didn't matter that you weren't feeling like it was going to be interesting or that you didn't feel like you wanted to be on camera. Your content is not for you by and large. It's about serving our customer and helping them. And if we have that mentality, it kind of takes down these limiting beliefs that we're telling ourselves around making content. Now, some people think, well, my content or my life is kind of boring. Mortgage information, market data. Okay, well, to that, I say, this is YouTube's top 2021 short video content creators. There's 2 red arrows on here. I was on a plane to Las Vegas and I knew I had to use this in one of my presentations because I do hear that excuse a lot. I do hear this limiting belief that my content or my life is boring. What am I going to post? The 2 red arrows are pointing to 2, not 1, 2 accounts that are dentist accounts. So if 2 dentist accounts made the top 10 list for YouTube, industry is irrelevant, topic is irrelevant, it's the person, it's the personality and how they delivered that content. So I just want to remind you, 2 dentists made it to the top 10 category of YouTube for 2021. You also can make amazing content with context. So when people say, well, I'm posting, but it's not really doing anything, it's not generating anything, what that anything is that you're trying to articulate is context. Content is the thing. We don't have a problem making the thing usually. We have a problem with the context. The context is how you make the thing have meaning to someone's head or heart or feel something. That's context. That's a little bit trickier. So we're going to talk about that. I want you to take a little picture of this. This is part of what's in your guide too, okay? How do we come up with context? Well, we make content that falls into these categories. Maybe it's educational, maybe it's entertaining, maybe it's educational and entertaining. These are helpful frameworks to get you down the road of, okay, well, how do I make something that has meaning? Put it in one of these categories. And then we're going to take it a step further in just a moment. It's the meaning, it's the value, it's the storytelling, it's the format. Remember we talked about no text heavy PDFs? That text heavy PDF could absolutely get more engagement and have meaning if you made it into videos. It's your likability, it's your relatability, it's your nonverbal communication that we can communicate through video. I'm showing my hands, I'm leaning into the camera, I'm looking at you, you can sense warmth and energy. All of that can be context. And I also want you to think about, let's get rid of the metrics we're so used to measuring, because that gets into our head. We think about how many followers we have, likes, comments. I'm giving you permission to make your own metrics. And I'm going to give you a couple of ideas here. I'm going to put them all up so you can take a look at them. Maybe you don't do all of these, but maybe you make a video and you post it and you don't rewatch it. Measure that. I did that 5 times this month. Great. How about, did you take out words like and like? Are you getting better at that? Perfect. How about when I'm making my TikToks or my Reels or my YouTube videos, I'm getting faster at the editing process? Awesome. Just because it's not a like or a comment or a follower does not mean it's not a valuable metric. So make over your metrics and your mindset as well. I also want you to love the lurkers. And I say that with like all positive intent. The people that are watching, that are consuming your content and not engaging, because here's what happens. That top of mind phenomenon where people are watching and they're going to run into you at the grocery store and they're going to say, oh my gosh, we love your videos. Every time I see your videos, that's great. I've been watching them. And you're going to say like, what? I mean, I didn't even know you were watching them. You've never commented. Or the goal is you go to a meeting, whether it's in person or on Zoom, and someone says, well, we kind of already decided that we were going to work with you. I mean, we kind of feel like we've already gotten to know you because we've watched your videos, but we felt like we had to kind of, go through the motions. Yes, I want my videos to do the selling for me. That's why I make them. Every single time I go to a conference, every single time, 100%, there's at least one person that says to me, I feel like I already know you. And I tell them you do. I mean, we may never even talked through direct message, but because you've consumed me, you do have a sense that you know me. So now let's talk about how we're going to turn your statements into stories. How do we take your good content, make it great? And this is going to take a little bit of skill, but again, that guide's going to help you too. I have to owe a big shout out to this author, Donald Miller, who wrote one of my favorite books of all time called Building a Story Brand: How to Clarify Your Message so that your customers will listen and take action. Here's a summary of the book. It talks about every movie, every book has a hero who has a problem and meets a guide who can help them solve that problem. And then there's either a happy ending or there's a sad ending. Sounds pretty similar to every movie we've probably ever seen. Here's a movie that I love and you've probably seen, The Karate Kid. So the hero is Daniel. The guide, of course, is Mr. Miyagi. And oftentimes we think, well, we need to be the hero. We want to be the credible, authoritative expert. But in the movies and in books, is the hero always the expert? Because in this movie, and I would say most, think about Star Wars or any other movie, hopefully it's in the 80s because those are my favorite genre. Think about the hero. They often are ill-equipped, afraid, don't know what to do. They need help. They're not sure what they should do next. And they find a guide who has a plan, who's been there, done that. We want to be the guide. Oftentimes we're posting hero content, and we have to think in terms of how Donald Miller states it: be the guide. Teach me something, help me, give me a plan, let me know that you can solve my problems or that you have empathy. So I did that. I had to go on the dentist theme because we talked about dentists on YouTube. So I said, all right, Well, I'm going to make a post and I'm going to see if this is kind of on the same track with what we were talking about. So let's take a look at the checklist. Do you have social proof? Well, Chelsea, you told me I have to have authority and credibility, and I put I'm the number one dentist, so I put social proof. Okay. Well, Chelsea, you told me I have to have my face, and there it is. There's me. I put my face on it. Yes. Well, you told me I have to have a call to action, and I do. I say book now, book your appointment online. There's my info. Okay. And, you know, it's a nice graphic. I made it in Canva, which, by the way, I love Canva. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not suggesting that there is. So overall, I feel like I'm making these checklists. But this, my friends, is a hero post. This is about me. It's not about being a guide. So how can I take the fact that I am the number one dentist? What helped me get there? And what can I extract out of those stories to position me as a guide? So this is how I would do it if I were a dentist. I'm going to show you real estate ones in just a minute. So if I really was the number one dentist and I cleaned 832 sets of teeth last year, well, I probably saw a lot of common problems. I saw things that were surprising. What was my hardest case? What about emergencies on the weekend? What happened when I was going through dental school? Why did I become a dentist? What was it like when I first opened my practice? These are stories of me becoming the number one dentist. So I want you to think about product placement and how you can tell me you're in real estate without telling me you're in real estate. Tell me you're in real estate without telling me you're in real estate. So here's me now as a realtor. Okay, this is actually just a made up post. But again, I'm checking those boxes. I'm like, well, it's got my info on it. It's got a call to action. It's got social proof. You know, this is a little bit of the hero. So there's no guidance or lesson in here. So I'm going to give you the same exact idea in a very different guide focused post. So it says here, I've spent 22 years in the industry. The other stuff I made up, but I have spent 22 years in the industry. Like I said, I got my license in 2001. So what if I told the story, this is my actual post, where I do tell the story of how I became a realtor and what happened to me along the way and my family. And it wasn't like a super positive entry into real estate for me. I had just lost a job with a mentor of mine who I found was embezzling all of the money for a company that I had moved out of state and knew no one, had to sell everything I owned and had nowhere to live and no job. So I talked a lot about what I learned along the way. This is the same post in a very different format. This is a guide format. Let's talk about this one. Yeah, we want to tell people that we are successful in getting things under contract. Absolutely. And this is a beautiful graphic. Love it. It's a little bit of the hero, right? Where's the guide in this? So let's look at this one. This is my friend Desiree. Desiree is product placement. Tell me you're in real estate without telling me you're in real estate. Where is she standing? She's standing obviously in a new home construction. So she's telling me new home construction in real estate without making a graphic maybe of just that community. And in the caption, it's awesome because she talks about she went to go train with her trainer and then she went to a meeting with the community that's been operating off a wait list. It only has 66 homes. So maybe you talked about that wait list, or maybe you talked about the workout, or maybe you talked about her coffee, whatever it is. Product placement, brilliant. Because this is telling me you're in real estate without telling me you're in real estate. This is my friend Barb. Again, this caption is about fiduciary duty. That sounds really boring, right? But she's talking about how we have to be honest and how we have to represent our clients and what that means. And the reason that I stopped and read it on both of these is I recognize Barb. I recognize Desiree. How will I know you're my guide if I don't know who to look for? They're in their content. Here's my friend Nicole. Nicole loves food and cooking. She goes by the Hungry Realtor. Now, what made me stop was, one, I recognized Nicole. I saw she's got some wine, which I love wine. And look what she says. It's a little bit hard to see probably because it's small. In the first sentence of her caption, it says, celebrated opening escrow last night. It's not I just opened escrow. It is, let me tell you a story about what I'm doing to celebrate. How about this one? Beautiful. It's gorgeous. I love it. Okay, that's a little bit of the hero. How do we make it more into the guide? This is my friend Amy Cotney, and you can follow her at Sweet Home Albert AL. She is making really funny, entertaining reels and TikToks about the houses that she's selling and listing. Now you can see that in these, she is giving a perspective. It says, when an out-of-town client asks me if the shower is big enough. So these are funny, they're entertaining, and they're also showcasing this beautiful home, right? So that one had 129,000 views. Now this is the same house. She made 3 videos out of the same house, one in the closet, one in the bathroom, one in the living room. So really got a lot of views out of that one house. So, I mean, I'm just like adding randomly 100, 200, so 250,000 views combined on those 3 small clips from a listing. How about this one? Another house sold. Yes, we definitely want to tell people that we are successfully selling properties. So let's look at another variation of this. It's a little bit of the hero. Here's Amy again. Well, why am I stopping? I recognize my guide. I love the joy in the picture. And she's telling a story. The very first word is story time. So I've been working with an amazing client on and off for a year, blah, 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 right? Now, when I swipe, because this is swipeable, I then see the beautiful pictures of the interior of the home. And she simply put some context or text in her personality by using a simple app. And there we have it. So which one are you engaging with? The first one or this one? I'm engaging with this one. How about this information? New conforming loan limit. Cool. We need to know about that, right? But this is the same loan limit everybody else got. Everybody else got that number. How can you make it unique and original to your brand? How about this? We need to tell people about what's happening in the marketplace, but everybody has the same numbers if you're in the same MLS, right? So this is my friend Glenda. You can find her on TikTok, all of the places. She has, I think now, something like 50 or 60 million views on TikTok. She does not dance. She does not lip sync. She does not do any trends. She answers real estate questions, and boring ones at that. The one she's answering here in this example is how square footage is measured in Atlanta or in the state of Georgia. So she has gotten 100% of her business from these videos. And by the way, she started TikTok a little bit more than a year ago. So it's not like she's been on it for years. And I would say she started to see massive success 6 to 8 months in. My friend Taya. These are videos on her Instagram that she also puts on YouTube. It says Taya's 2 cents. That's her show name, Taya's 2 cents. What does 2 cents mean? Perspective, experience, opinion. None of this is original content, okay? Finding the right agent. How many times have you seen someone say, here's what you need to look for when you're working with an agent? What's original about it is her delivery of it, how she's humanized it, right? So you don't have to reinvent original content, but you do have to make something about it original. How about this one? Great graphic, now hiring. That's the hero. This is my friend Ruthie Ann Taylor. And this is the same now hiring. It's a recruiting post, but it doesn't look like that. She's showing her office with the dogs in it. Yeah, I want to work in an office with the dogs. I'm a dog lover. This other picture is her annual Broker Olympics. She invites everyone out. They do canoe races. They have a great time. What is it like to work where you work? That is a recruiting post. This one I also consider a recruiting post. This is my friend Katie, and they did their first annual team business planning retreat. I love a vision board. I do my vision board every year. And while this isn't saying, hey, I'm hiring, come work with me, it's telling me this is what it's like to work with you. This is what it's like to be in that brokerage. I want that. How about this? Yeah, we want to tell people what's going on around town. Absolutely. This is my friend Shannon doing the same thing. This is a pretty graphic. I may like it. I may engage with it. Maybe I'll share it. But this one made me stop because Shannon's in it and I know her. And then I'm reading the caption and it says, if you need some ideas in or around, here are some things that you might want to do. All right, Tuesday tip. Yep, we see a lot of these tips, helpful information. This information is really good. And sometimes the format, it may not be the right format. So let's talk about how you can make these tips a little bit more engagement friendly. Well, obviously put yourself in it. This is my friend Neil. He's in every one of his posts. He's telling you how to invest your money. Typically, people aren't super excited about reading investment tips on Instagram, but the way that he positions it and has him in it and very easy to understand, and the graphics are great, he's very, very high engagement levels. How about this one? Happy holidays. Yeah, we want to celebrate the holidays and let people know we're thinking of them. This is a little bit on the hero side. There's not much guide happening in there or relatability. Again, my friend Ruthie Ann. She's talking about the holidays, happy Thanksgiving. She's saying happy Thanksgiving without making a post of a turkey with the logo on it. She's got her company sweatshirt on, she's got her company logo on the pies, and she has a really heartfelt gratitude message. And so which one are you probably engaging with more is this one, I'm going to say. So in closing, before we ask any, answer any questions, if there are any, I want you to simply think about this. Think about when you're looking at your content, go through your past 8 or 9 posts. Can you say that you were more of a guide, or is it a little bit more of the hero? Are you making more of a statement, or are you telling a story that invites someone into the conversation? Did your story include a lesson? Did it offer inspiration, motivation, help, anything where it can help someone know what to do next, or maybe even ask for advice? Did you ask a question? Don't forget the you language as well. Did you ask a question? And lastly, before we dive into Q&A, as I mentioned, please do connect with me on Instagram. You can see my handle right here. The first image is what you're going to get when you click the link in my bio. Look for the content download that goes with this class. So if you want to dive deeper into this, if you want to take more notes, if you want to answer questions that can help you rediscover the story behind your story, the challenge is we are too close to our own story. We are too close to our own story. It's kind of like when people say to you, well, what are 3 words to describe yourself? And you're like, I mean, we have to ask other people. That's why we think our life is boring and that nobody's going to care about that content, because we've kind of forgotten our own story because we're so close to it. So that 5-step framework is going to be helpful. If you're looking for ideas for content, I have 100 content idea starters. If anyone out there watching is thinking about Instagram Reels or even TikTok, because it's pretty much the same, I have a helpful guide about how to make real estate reels that aren't boring. And last but not least, you can get my latest best-selling book on Amazon. Excuse me, link, of course, in the bio for my Instagram. It's a 250-page workbook all about content. So if you want a super deep dive, that's probably the best place to go. Okay, Rob, are you out there? I wanted to see if there were any questions. I haven't been paying attention to it. Looks like there isn't a whole bunch. Oh, Rob, yeah, you've got a question. Curious about highly produced or organic videos more effective. Is perfection the enemy of progress? Well, we all know the answer to that. Yes, perfection is unattainable. Perfection is also unrelatable. So even though we think we have to be perfectionists and make a really beautiful package and have this excellent edited video with a green screen, what happens is they've done studies on this. And if anybody out there is familiar with BombBomb, I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen so you can see me. If anyone's familiar with BombBomb, they did a study, and now I can't remember what the name of it is called. I feel like authenticity was in there. Anyway, they did a study, you can Google it on their website, and it was about how everybody, overwhelmingly the numbers, engaged more with content that didn't look polished, that didn't look super edited. And I love that idea because let's be honest, Like Instagram can be a really scary place because you see all these beautiful pictures and it's very intimidating and it's not reality. We have filters, all of that. And so I do think that the more real it looks, I think honestly, the better. And there are times when I post stuff and there's misspellings and I just leave it. And you know why? People always want to tell me there's a misspelling. Great, let's talk about it. Drop me a comment, right? I want people to know that I'm human, and that is hard for me because I am a perfectionist. So that's something that I'm personally working through. But yes, they're showing that organic video outperforms. I would say the only place that maybe it doesn't outperform is YouTube, because typically we're going to YouTube with a search intent to learn something, and we want something that's going to take us through a process, and typically that's going to be a little bit more edited and or entertaining, like a vlog style. So that's probably the only place that I would do that. So, you're giving it away. Yay. Thank you. I so appreciate that, Rob. Thank you.
One more book sale.
Thank you. Any other questions that I can answer?
I have a question. What do you think about realtors that post on TikTok and they do the voiceover and everything like that? Sometimes it's like a little bit rude to maybe the client, but realtors think it's hilarious, or so maybe it's more content for the realtors, not for the clients. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so just to frame that for people who maybe aren't familiar with what you're talking about, there's a lot of short form video content on TikTok and Reels where people will do, I guess it's not really called lip syncing, because it's not, I guess lip dubbing is another thing, where there's like an audio with a track that maybe you're mouthing the words to. And, this could also not be video. It could be memes. It could be anything that anyone's sharing. It's a personal choice to determine what you feel comfortable in sharing. I've made a personal choice that I, am thoughtful about what I'm sharing, because I know everybody has a different experience, and I wouldn't want somebody to feel like, ooh, that kind of hurt my feelings, or that wasn't very nice. But I understand what you're saying. And again, I go back to my personal theory of, your content's not for you. You can make content that brings you joy and brings you smiles. Like I'm posting a reel today that I'm laughing at myself in it, but I'm laughing at myself. I'm not, laughing at anyone else. So you have to realize that whatever you put out there, even if it's about the brand of peanut butter that you're using on your sandwich, somebody's got an opinion that they say, I don't like chunky peanut butter. That's terrible. I want creamy. And so, yes, it's going to be out for public consumption. So it's really a personal decision. If it were my kid asking me, I'd say, well, would you want everybody on the planet to see that? Would you want your mom to see that? But it's ultimately up to the person and their decision on how far they want to go with a piece of content.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions out there before Josh takes it away, I guess, from Chelsea?
Well, thank you, everyone. I know that was a long class on content and a lot of information. Send me a DM if you have questions. Go grab the free guides. And thank you, Rob, and everyone for the invitation to be here today.